How might you reimagine retirement? Well, here to talk with me about that is Eric Weigel, author of a new book titled Reimagining Retirement. Eric, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure. So, you've written a new book, but before we dive into it, for the benefit of our viewers who may not be familiar with you and your work, you mind giving us a brief overview?
Absolutely. So I'll start with just my personal background. So I've been an investment manager really for 30 years, having started my career with Russell and worked at a number of large Boston-based firms running mutual funds and pension fund money. And about 10 years ago, I switched more to the wealth management side of working with individuals. In the last couple years, I started thinking about sort of my own retirement. And that's sort of the start or the reason why I wrote this book. It was really more than 2 years ago. Probably the last 5 or 6 years I've been thinking about my own retirement. And I had also sort of been recently divorced, and it raised a lot of issues, which led me to kind of think a little bit more deeply about retirement. And of course, I knew a lot about finance already. I knew about personal finance. I knew about taxes, investments. I knew about real estate. I was also always very time aware, very structured in my time. But I didn't know a lot of other things, a lot of other things that would affect sort of the quality of my retirement. Because I think the focus of the vast majority of the industry is still and has traditionally been more on the money. And I realized that I knew a lot about money, not that a lot of my clients don't, but the industry in general was also missing a piece, which is what do I do with this money to enhance the quality of my life? And that was sort of the start of the book. Of my thinking, and I explored a whole bunch of fields from behavioral finance to, for example, positive psychology, personal growth, and the book is basically a combination of all of those fields, and it really describes sort of my thinking as I've started this journey. And I'm not retired. In fact, I don't like that word that much, but it's a word that everybody uses. I kind of think of it as the start of my sort of third age, which is a term that's been used in Europe primarily to describe kind of when you go from career, your primary focus being career and family, to now more about yourself and seeking that fulfillment that we all want.
Yeah. So in the book, you detail 9 keys to true wealth, and I guess the basis of those 9 keys is formulating a vision for your future self, which I really enjoy because as a concept, because retirement is about envisioning what it will look like in the future for you. So maybe you can walk us through these 9 keys.
Yeah. So as you said, Bob, the first key, well, the first aspect of this is really figuring out what is it that you want to be. Okay, who do you want to be in the future? What do you want to do from a high level perspective, and why? That's really sort of those are the three pillars of your future self. And that's really important because without knowing those, without knowing who your future self or where you see your life going, everything else sort of is just random. So I always say you need a vision of your future self and you need a system. The system is where the 9 keys of true wealth come in. The first 3 keys, and every letter in my net wealth system sort of is a different category. The first one is N for nest, which is really your home and environment. The second one is your earnings, your money. That's the money part. And the T, the third one, is time. And those are the traditional things that the industry has spent time on. So if you go to a financial planner, or if you think about retirement, you always think about the money, you think about where you want to live, and kind of what you want to do. And that was the starting point for me too. And then the wealth part are what I call the turbochargers to your retirement. And that involves work, whether that's for a lot of retired people are actually going back to work or working part-time. A lot of retired people are electing to volunteer, and they do it in a serious manner more than just donating money. They actually donate their time. I consider that to be work. So work, then there's a very important aspect is your emotional energy, because I think retirement, when you go into retirement, there's a shift in your identity. You no longer can identify, you no longer should identify with the career you had, because you're in a new phase. So what is your identity going to be? And that's where your emotional energy is really, really important. The other thing we know about emotional energy is that we're going to have a lot of detours. And we have a lot of detours during our working careers. We're going to continue having those detours in our life in retirement. And becoming resilient and flexible is really important. So then the A, we've covered the W, E, and the A is achievements. The fact that you retired doesn't say that you no longer have any dreams. In fact, you may have more dreams for your retirement during your retirement because you have more time. So what are you hoping to achieve? And that's a really important aspect of looking forward in your life, not just backward, which is the mistake that a lot of retired people make. Then there's the L, which is for learning. And that, again, is very important because your learning doesn't stop in the corporate world. It doesn't stop when you go to college. We keep learning. In fact, learning is one of the most beneficial things to your brain health. The T is for tribe. Tribe is just your social network, which has been found to be really the key to fulfillment and happiness, and even to your health. All of these things are correlated, right? Your wealth is really multidimensional. So your tribe, how big is your social circle? The quality of your social circle, who you surround yourself with is really important. And then the H comes back to your health. So this is more your physical and mental health. And all of these things together are what comprise your true wealth, in my opinion. And when I've kind of run this through my clients, there's an aha moment where they say, I finally understand how this all fits together and how I need to, it's like almost a portfolio of assets. I need to manage my life portfolio, and I need to make sure that everything is in sync, and everything that I do in my life, there can't be one category that's a superstar, and then, for example, my relationships are falling by the wayside, because everything affects each other. So you really have to manage all of this together, and your money and, for example, your health are incredibly important, but so is your social circle, so is how you spend your time during the day.
Yeah. So as I think about these 9 keys, do you recommend that someone has addressed all of these 9 keys before their retirement, or can they retire and then work on these keys, or what's your best advice there?
I think retirement is really a very significant change in people's lives, more so than what they anticipate. We anticipate a happy, fun-filled retirement, and the reality is that. But it also, after a while, after honeymoon period, there's a lot of questioning. What is it that I'm doing? Like I'm a little bored. Maybe I need to do other things. So I always recommend that you start thinking about these things probably 10 years before you retire. The reality is most people, it's almost chronological. When people turn 50, there's a light bulb that goes off, and people start thinking about this next phase. They may not think about it deeply, but I think that at the very least 5 years before retirement is when you really need to start thinking about it. But the reality is that a lot of people do retire without thinking much about it, besides thinking about their money. And they find themselves in this honeymoon period, which turns into a little bit of, questioning of where you are in your life. And there's never a bad time to really start thinking about all of these aspects to your life. I mean, that's a key point that I'm making in the book, is that your notion of your future self, where you want to be, starts sort of crystal clear in your head, but changes over time. and but you always have to have that forward thinking, and you can start at any point in time. You can revise your beliefs or what you really want to achieve at any point in time, but the point is you have to spend time thinking about it, and actually not just thinking about it, but you have to plan and you have to execute, which is taking action.
Yeah. So one last question as I think about planning for your future self, and as I think about retirement, many older adults go through three phases during retirement, right? The so-called go-go, slow-go, and no-go years. How do you plan and accommodate for that future self?
Well, I think every phase is different, right? And I think when you start off in the early days of retirement, your health is probably going to be better. Your energy is going to be better. Your financial resources are going to be you're going to have more certainty about your financial resources, and there's that sense of excitement that the time that you previously went to a job, let's say, is now yours. And a lot of people plan travel, they plan a lot of things. So there's that excitement. I think the sense of your future self involves more of these fun activities. Eventually, the sense of once you get those, some items off your bucket list, then you start thinking, well, what is it that I want to do? I love traveling, but you know what? I don't want to travel so much that I'm always tired when I get home. I want to maybe do some consulting, or I maybe want to work on a social cause, some environmental cause that's of interest to me, or I want to just spend more time with my grandchildren. And that's sort of the next evolution of your future self. And then there's, after those years where you're still in relatively good health, it comes a point where you'll become a little bit less mobile. And again, your sense of your future self will change after that. So the concept of the future self, I tell people, think, 5 to 10 years ahead, but think about it on a continuous basis. It's like almost a portfolio of financial assets. You start with the sense of what the portfolio is supposed to do, but as things around you change and as you yourself change, then I think you have this notion of flexibility and balance in your life has to kind of evolve with the your current circumstances.
Eric, it's been a pleasure having you share your knowledge and wisdom with us. Before we wrap up, tell us how folks can get a copy of your book.
Well, the book is right now on Amazon. It's available in paperback as well as Kindle. Just search for Reimagining Retirement or Eric Weigel, my name. You can also go to my website at retirewithpossibilities.com, and there's a page there, that tells you a little bit more about the book and a link to Amazon.
Well, thank you again, Eric. My guest has been Eric Weigel, author of Reimagining Retirement.
Thank you, Bob. Glad to be here.